timely fashion. Our guest this evening is the fantastic Ryan Divish, a good friend of our Northwest chapter of SABR. And I think he's joined us every year since at least 2015, except for last year. But we had some issues with, like a lot of groups, meeting last year. So we're excited to have him. We have a lot to talk about since the last time he joined our group. This season, last season, I'm sure we all have many questions. For those of you who are new to this chapter, or this to be your first meeting, my name is Tip Wanhoff. I organize some of these meetings. Bob Russin here. Bob, can you give a wave? Bob organizes other meetings for our chapter here. We look forward to meeting in person, but for now we're meeting remotely. I will ask Ryan to introduce himself to us, and then what I hope we can do is just do Q&A with him. And for that to work, I'm going to ask everybody to please mute yourself unless you are actively asking a question. And we will do our best. We have almost a whole hour with Ryan here. I'm sure we can cover a lot of ground, but please keep your question and be ready to fire away when there's a gap in the conversation here. So Ryan, I'm going to turn it over to you. Please introduce yourself to our group again, and then we'll start firing our questions at you.
Okay, hold on one second. Sorry, I'm in you can hear me, right? Everybody can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I'm in a hotel here in Carlsbad, California, scenic courtyard by Marriott, not the swanky La Costa resort where the GMs are holding their meetings. I left there so I'd come back and do this. I didn't want to be out there. Yeah, my name is Ryan Divish. I've been a Mariners beat writer since I started covering baseball in the Pacific Northwest in end of 2006. I was hired by the News Tribune, worked there for several years as a backup writer to Larry LaRue, and then national baseball writer, then took over as a Mariners beat writer, and then moved to the Times. And I think I'm coming up on my work anniversary actually of 8 years. Yeah, or 6 years. I can't remember. Is it 2014? I think it was the year, my first day of employment when I was doing my orientation. I got a text message tip that Chuck Armstrong was announcing his retirement. So I wrote that day on my very first day, and I thought I was going to miss all the orientation baloney that you have to do with HR because I worked all day. But no, they just made me do it a week later. So no, I've been with the Times since then, and I guess now I'm a veteran of baseball, a veteran baseball writer. I look around at these meetings and I'm a little bit older than most of these kids that they have coming in now. I don't wear the skinny jeans and the big headphones and listen to whatever they consider music. So, but yeah, no, I always have fun doing this talk. I think we did it. The 1 year was fun because it was at PL or UPS. So it was like 3 blocks from my apartment. Well, usually at SPU. So I love doing it, and let's just get it rolling, fire away, and we'll get going.
And for the record, this meeting is being recorded for posterity. So just FYI, everybody.
Yeah. Well, as my 2021 season started off with a Zoom recording that was not exactly the most fun day of my work life. I'll tell you that story because you guys might think it's amusing. My girlfriend that I'm seeing, she's from Montana, from my hometown in Havre, Montana, and she had never been to spring training. And so she came down to visit me during spring training. I said, well, come down early during pitchers and catchers. That's usually when we have the most free time. Nothing much happens. So she'd been there a day or so, and we went on that Sunday, and there was a light day because I think the Mariners pitchers and catchers were doing physicals. So I didn't have to write very much. We went for a long walk. I think maybe went to the gym, and I took her to In-N-Out Burger for her first In-N-Out Burger ever. And we're sitting there, and I get a text message, and I start looking at Twitter, and I look, and I was like, and I start to see the transcript of this Zoom call that Kevin Mather had done with the Bellevue Breakfast Rotary Club. And unfortunately, I'm starting to need readers right now. So I have my phone way out and I'm looking at it, trying to read these messages. And it looks like I'm taking a selfie in the In-N-Out burger, And I finally look at my girlfriend and I said, we have got to go because this is big. And my phone started ringing as I was driving back to the place I stay there. And I don't think I left my computer for about 18 or 19 straight hours. I worked almost till 2 a.m. that night, woke up early the next day, had to write again, had to do a bunch of stuff. And my girlfriend at least got a glimpse of what my life could be like. She left and just went and sat by the pool most days. So it was, yeah, that was the start of my 2021 season. And the number of times I've referenced Bellevue Breakfast Rotary Club Zoom call with Kevin Mather, it's probably in the 30s right now.
If I could jump in, and ordinarily I defer to Anthony, who's already posted something in the chat, but I have to leave early and I apologize.
Oh, that's fine.
But so I'm gonna, if I could jump the line on a question. The big story obviously is this huge, I mean, one of the big stories, huge class of free agents.
Mm-hmm.
And the Mariners open pocketbook might be going after some. I'm sure you're gonna get questions about that. My question is there any scuttlebutt or speculation about any of these free agents signing with their teams, staying where they are? And kind of a subsidiary question, is there any possibility that Corey and Kyle will try and land in the same place? I don't know if the Dodgers would be interested with Justin Turner, but that kind of what's the universe out there that will not be a target for the Mariners is kind of my inverse question.
Yeah, I think there are some free agents that are out there that might go back. Clayton Kershaw, who is injured, I expect him to go back to the Dodgers. The Dodgers came out today and said, look, he can come back whenever he wants. He has a lifetime spot on this team. I don't know about Corey Seager. I think, yeah, usually once the toothpaste gets out of the tube, that it doesn't usually go back in. So I think Corey would like to be on the East Coast more. I know Kyle would. Larry Stone and I speculated that maybe the Washington Nationals are a good fit for both the Seagers because, Carter Keyboom has not really proven that he's a big league player. They need a third baseman. They need a shortstop because they let Trey Turner go, and they need to prove to Juan Soto that they're trying to win. It's something that Scott Boras said today in his media thing, that Juan Soto's priority, besides probably being the first $400 million player, is being on a team that wins. So, yeah, I think you could see some guys. I mean, I don't think that Carlos Correa is going to go back to the Astros. I don't think they have the wherewithal or the stomach to give him $300 million. There may be a few, but I think it's the circumstances there where players like the city or the town or the organization enough that, maybe they're not looking to test the market as much as just reset the thing. Because there are some guys that have done that before where, they turn down the qualifying offer, but maybe they get 2 years instead. So I mean, one person that maybe does it, though I think he wants to go to the West Coast more, is Marcus Semien, a target of the Mariners. Toronto really would like to have him back. I mean, if you look at the numbers that he put up for Toronto, why wouldn't you want to have him back? So no, I think that's an interesting thing. And I think, just being down here, it's hard to know what these guys want to do because like the CBA is just looming there. And I don't know that anybody, really knows how it's going to go into effect. You want me to just read off these chat ones from the chat? I can do that. So Anthony Salazar asks, Ryan, what do the Mariners need in order to get them into the playoffs in 2022, pitching and offense? Yeah, they need both, honestly. You look now, you say Kikuchi turned down his player option for $13 million, which I'm sure Jerry DiPoto was doing a little dance because that's 13 extra million he gets to spend. They need 2 starting pitchers at least. They have three starters in the rotation right now in Marco Gonzalez, Chris Flexen, and Logan Gilbert. And those are nice players, but I mean, I think you want to go with like a frontline starter look if you can. Now there's not a ton of them out there, Scherzer is going to cost you 40 some million a year, probably for a few years. And I don't know that he wants to sign there, but they need two starting pitchers to give them established ones. Like they've done the experiment with Justice Sheffield and Justin Dunn, and maybe they show that they can come back and be a part of the rotation. But right now, I don't think you can really expect anything from them. Maybe one of those guys is Tyler Anderson as the number 5 guy, but I think you want to bring in a guy that has a little bit more push to the front, that you can move to the front. Yeah, maybe Marco's your number 1 in terms of name, but like you want that kind of horse. I'm all for them trying to bring back James Paxton on a 1-year deal with some incentives, something like that. Like we saw last year, they didn't have enough starting pitching to make it through the first half of the season. And frankly, when you miss the playoffs by 1 or 2 games, you can go back to all those bullpen starts that they had to make when they stayed to that 2-man or the 6-man rotation, and you can point to a lot of failures there. So they need to add 2 starting pitchers. We obviously have heard they need to add a second baseman and a third baseman. I think they would like to add 2 impact bats. My preference would be that they add a center fielder, but they don't seem to think that's the priority, and they don't seem to think that adding a catcher is a priority. But they can't go through another season where you rely on a bullpen, that a group that's always fickle, and just 4 hitters in your lineup to carry you through this year. So those are the major needs. If you can get 2 starting pitchers, and if they get Simeon and maybe somebody else, to play those positions, maybe they go trade for Matt Chapman. I mean, that gives you a real lineup instead of trying to just piece it together.
Hey, Ryan, real quick. I just had a meeting yesterday with Kevin Martinez. He's telling me that he's looking to keep you busy this offseason. So
yeah. Oh, I mean, those guys, they will. And I think you're going to hear some announcements. I was, at least from the season ticket holders, I was told they didn't increase any season ticket packages. And I think we're going to see a move to another alternate top, navy blue top that they'll have, that they're going to use. We saw them wear it all the time because Marco and some of the pitchers liked it. So we'll see. I think we may have a uniform announcement. Who knows? They have all kinds of stuff. Kevin is much, much smarter than me. I can tell you that much. And so he'll keep me busy. That's for certain. Mark asks, why should we think the Mariners can put together 2 consecutive 500 clubs? How does that happen? I don't think you can ever think that. I think we saw last year, they walked the line between being a 500, being a 500 club and being sub below. I mean, like, think you 30, you win 20 some, or I think 27 1-run games, you win all 14 extra inning games, you rely so heavily on your bullpen, and you have that kind of run differential and you have a plus 14 win despite the run differential. I mean, that just isn't sustainable. So yeah, they have to address the talent aspects of it, because I think we all kind of know that you just can't replicate what they had last year. Last year was last year. There's no guarantee that they're going to be this good this year. And I think something to watch too is a lot of these bullpen guys that they got ran pretty hard next year. Watch for early injuries or early fatigue, because we saw Paul Sewald start to get a little fatigued and struggle. And I think same with Steckenrider. So that's something to watch. Let's see here. Barry asks, Ryan, when you write the book after the 2024 World Series win, will the Graveman Toro trade be seen as a turning point worthy of a 30 for 30? And did Dipoto definitely win that trade? One, I'm not writing a book. That seems like a lot of work. And I like when Larry Stone was writing his Edgar book, I was just like, no, man, you're crazy. And I've been talking with my friend Evan Drellick of The Athletic. He's writing a really big book on the Astros and the cheating scandal and all the issues they've had, and their kind of win at all costs mentality. And he's just laboring through it. So I don't think you're going to see me doing that. As for the 2024 World Series and all that stuff, like, honestly, to me, I think Abraham Toro is a nice player. I don't think he's a very good second baseman defensively. And I don't think his power quotient is great at third base. I mean, it'd be different if if you're lining up Carlos Correa at third base or at shortstop, and you have Abraham Toro at third base, then you can offset it. But when you have JP Crawford at shortstop, you got to have some power there. I know that Seager's on base and he sold out for power this year, but they needed that run production. So if I'm Jerry Dipoto and I have this money and I have this freedom and these prospect capital to go out, and you have the A's dumping players and some of these guys dumping players and salary. I- I'm I'm not guaranteeing Abraham Toro a spot. You have, to me, Ty France has a spot in your lineup, whether it's at first base or not. JP Crawford, because you believe in his defense, you'll give Kelenic a spot and you have Mitch Haniger a spot. The rest of them are open, and like they say in college football, you'll get recruited over. Abraham Toro is a nice player, but there are better players out there on the market. Go get them. Abraham Toro can be your bat off the bench, the versatility can show. Because I think we saw his BABIP numbers were pretty unsustainable, and they kind of proved out. I thought he fatigued a little bit. He's a good player, but his value would be at second base, and I just don't know that he'll ever be a very good defensive second baseman. Will we see a DH in the National League? Yeah, we're going to see it. That's going to be part of the CBA. I think the players want it. The owners want it. The players want it, but the owners used it as a bargaining tool this year because they were trying to force in the expanded playoffs and some of that stuff. And so everybody knows that the universal DH right now would probably be more beneficial. You don't want to see pitchers getting hurt with the amount of money that you're paying pitchers these days. I just think that, and it's another job spot for some players, some position players. So I expect that to be like at the media scrums the last 2 days, that was a hot topic of how National League teams are going to build their rosters with the idea of having a DH. Let's see here. Will there be a work stoppage, and will the CBA negotiations make for a slow off season? I think on December 2nd, major league owners will lock out the players. And that's everything I've read and everything I've heard. That's the expectation, that they're going to have a lockout, and it will extend into February. Everybody that I've heard, executives, agents, everything, they speak like they don't want it to affect the schedule. Like they know that they cannot miss games, that they can't have a shortened season that would kill their credibility. Really this lockout is a bargaining weapon, they call it. And it just basically, it's at a pressure thing. Four players on the 40-man roster wouldn't be able to go work out at any of the facilities for the team. They wouldn't be able to be in contact with any members of the team. Like they couldn't even call Jerry Dipoto. When you're locked out, there's no contact. So it's just a pressure point system that they're going to use. But I expect there to be a lockout. I expect the winter meetings, at least the major league side, to be canceled and a transaction freeze in place. And then, if they get it solved by February 1st, then it's just going to be pure chaos in the weeks that come after that, because everybody will be trying to sign. That's why a lot of people were wondering, well, should you sign now? Should you jump the market now? Are teams waiting? Are agents waiting? And nobody seems to know what the right answer is on that, or at least they're not saying it publicly. Rick Solomon asked, can we expect anything from James Paxton? Yeah, I don't know that he'd be ready by opening day. And I don't know, like if you got enough depth, that you don't have to force him to be ready by opening day, that could be a great piece just to add. Like, say he's ready by June 1st, and then he can ramp it up by mid-July to where he's really, full go. I mean, that's like adding a veteran lefty starter through the trade deadline on minimum money. I mean, when he was right last year, the few times I saw him right before he got injured, he was the best pitcher on the staff, because we've seen it. His stuff, when he's throwing the ball properly and when he's commanding, is just kind of the best that they had. So that's why I would take a risk. He wants to be here, as far as I can tell. He's having his first kid. His wife actually works. She likes to work. She works in Bellevue. So he would prefer to stay in this area if possible. And I think, if that's the case, and if all sides kind of want it, I don't see what the risk is involved is in that. Anthony asked, how great is Julio Rodriguez? And what's your assessment? Dude, I love that kid. He is Larry Stone. He's been around forever. He covered Bonds and all those guys in San Francisco, and he was covered the early Mariners teams. He just gets giddy when talking about Julio. There's just like a charisma or an aura to him. He just is happy, and like when he talks, it's just like you can see like why people believe this whole superstar quality. And I think for me, yeah, the belief, yeah, I think for me, beyond that kind of aspect, it's just like the maturity that he has for maybe 19. He's not, you know, I always joke that Kelnick's kind of got that edge, like little man syndrome type of deal. But Julio just has this, I'm good. I know I'm good. I don't have to tell you I'm good because everything I do, you're an awe by. But like when he went to the Dominican Summer or the Dominican Winter League last year and got humbled. And if you watch some of those games, they just kept whipping sliders and sliders and sliders at him. And he realized what it was like to play for results of a game and um not just like about development, but the games mattered, like winning mattered because you're playing with grown ass men who, that was part of their livelihood, making it to the postseason. That was eye opening. And, he basically kind of lost his spot and it motivated him to kind of clean up, his diet, get thinner, get more athletic, and really worked on a lot of the hitting the off speed pitches and understanding his approach. I mean, that was for him, I think, that's going to be a seminal point in his career where it helped him kind of understand what he needed to get to the next level. A lot of guys have to wait till they get to the big leagues to do that. He saw that in a league where, it's still difficult to play. And, I don't know that he'll make the opening day roster. And, we can talk about the service time and stuff, but he'll be there by July 1st. And, and he'll be a factor. Walt asks, any news on Paxton's health? As far as I know, he's throwing. He's been healthy. I actually texted him before I got on the Zoom call just to see if he'd heard from the Mariners, because I forgot to ask Boris about it today. And that was an interesting, like, it's tough to describe the Scott Boris media scrums. They're just a whole different level. Mike asks, what's the backstory on the supposed conflict between Jerry Dipoto and Kyle Seager? Well, it's not supposed conflict. There's this conflict, and it's just, Kyle just kind of disagreed when they tore it down after the 18 season, and Nelson was gone, and, whatever the deal was with Robbie, but, Zunino was traded, all that stuff. He wanted to keep winning, and he felt like, and I know he's not the only one, and this isn't all to blame on Dipoto per se, but like in that 18 season when they were ahead of the A's and then got caught and passed, if you go back and you look at that trade deadline, the Mariners didn't do a whole lot. They added Cameron Maybin and Zach Duke, and then what was it, Adam, what's his name, from the Yankees, and they're all three weren't factors. And like, part of it is Dipoto was told he couldn't add any more payroll. You already had D. Gordon, Cano, Segura, Seager, Felix, all these guys. And Dipoto was told he couldn't add any more payroll at the deadline to make the team better, that he had to work within parameters. And so, as he's the representative of the front office, Jerry is. And so I think that bothered him. There's just been friction. Kyle's had a few blow-ups at times. At coaches, at staff, and like not staff, but at coaches or people like that, where he's disagreed with something and let it be known. And I think that bothered Jerry a little bit too, and didn't feel like that was ideal for a leader. But it's weird, as like, I know that like Scott and Kyle have had some knockdown, drag out arguments about stuff and how he's handled things, but at the end of the day, like, Scott always just respected the fact that he wrote his name in the lineup every day and he played hurt, and that everything that Kyle said or did was still in the best interest of like winning, like that Kyle, his fault was always that he could never understand that when you went to the park that day, that winning wasn't the most important thing on your mind, like the idea of developing. He just didn't get that. And so, it just got kind of frosty. And then, the more it got frosty, the more backbiting started, and it just kind of grew. And I think we've all been around that one couple who makes everything awkward. They don't like each other. They're super passive aggressive. They have their little comments, you'll be out having dinner and you're just thinking to myself, my God, these people needed to get a divorce and just get away from each other. Like for me, it got super awkward at the end for me, just being in the middle of that, and oftentimes being, you know, a reciprocal or a receptacle of all the venting from both sides. And, you know, I think it's just best that everybody kind of moved on. And sometimes it was time. And, you know, I hope Kyle finds a place, and I hope he gets to the postseason. I really like him. I respect how he's played. And, you know, and like, at the same time, I told Kyle, like, I agreed when they tore it down. I was just like, look, if you're not going to commit the money, or you don't think you're good enough, then do it. Because they have never really truly done what they've done this last year. They put plenty of crappy teams out there. Don't get me wrong, but a crappy team doesn't mean you're rebuilding. That's a different thing. Timothy asked, where will Ty France play next year? DePoto said yesterday that Ty France is the starting first baseman on opening day. Now, if they go trade for Matt Olson, maybe he's the starting third baseman. But yeah, as of now, Ty France will be the starting first baseman because they feel like he's earned it, and they feel like he hits his best when he's playing first base or DH, just because, you know, you don't have the defense quotient. He's the most comfortable at first base, and I thought he played really well there, actually. And then Evan White, you know, honestly, DePoto mentioned that, like, well, Evan White, we're going to ask him to try some left field and stuff. The guy's coming off hip surgery, so you don't know how well he's going to run. He put on, you know, as part of being a first baseman, he put on almost 25, 30 pounds of bulk over the years. So I don't know that he runs maybe like he did in college. Maybe he's trimmed down. But to me, the best place for Evan White to play on opening day next year is in Tacoma. He's not yet figured out how to hit the big league level. He didn't really play AAA. And, you know, he's undergone some swing changes and changing up his philosophy, focusing more on the contact based point of it and not the launch angle and elevating. Because as he pointed out, he goes, I just like to hit the ball a little bit more, which is, I'm thinking, yeah, boy, that's, you know, some salient stuff, but it rings true. So I think we'll see him at Tacoma to start the season if he's healthy, or whenever he's healthy. And, you know, let him get games down there. Let him force his way back onto the team. You know, I get that he has a contract, and I get that he won the Gold Glove. But again, like I kind of mentioned with Abraham Toro, now, if your expectation is to win next year, and that's your primary goal, and you've promised that to your fans, then you know, sentimentality and all that other stuff has to go out the door. Like, you put your best players out there, and the chance it gives you the best position to win. Have a good night, Karen. Michael Wood asks, you didn't say anything about Kyle Lewis. I haven't, and I don't really, I don't know what to think of Kyle Lewis. We have not spoken to Kyle Lewis since before he got hurt. I've said hi to him, asked him to talk. He said he just wants to focus on his rehab. And if you go back and you read some of the stuff I've written, or you listen to the comments from DePoto on the radio and stuff, he goes out of his way to say, we don't know. Part of that is Kyle has kind of taken control of his rehab and his health, you know, and this is something a lot of players are doing. Evan White, same thing, but like, Kyle has his surgeon that he preferred, you know, that he wanted to have do the procedure. And he went through that surgeon and their stuff for the rehab in coordination with the Mariners. Like, they're keeping the Mariners all appraised of this, and they all kind of work together, but because he's kind of handling it that way, and they don't necessarily have the milestones, the Mariners don't really know. And I think, kind of out of respect to Kyle and not putting him in a bad situation where they like setting time, or setting like a time stamp where he's going to be ready. They're just saying, look, we don't know what he's going to be right away, so we're just going to let him get ready. When he gets to spring training, we'll figure it out. You know, the hope is that he comes to spring training ready to go and ready to be fully cleared. There is some concern that he might not be, but in that way too, they're not going to put any expectations. They're just going to say, look, you come to spring training, we know when you're healthy, you have a place in our lineup somehow, some way, whether that's at DH, in left field, part-time center field. And that's kind of what they're shooting for. Just get him healthy, get him to spring training, or get him into games, and then they'll figure it out. But as DePoto said, like, I think anything beyond that, whatever you get out of him when you don't know, is kind of gravy. And it was weird. I asked, because, you know, when DePoto said that he wasn't doing any baseball activity yet, I'm trying to count back. You know, it's been a month since the end of the season, and almost 6 weeks since 6 weeks since they shut him down. And I asked if he'd undergone any more surgical procedures, and he said no, nothing invasive, but he's getting work on it or whatever. So that leads me to guess that maybe they did give him a PRP shot in his knee or a regenokine shot, that platelet-rich plasma, some of that stuff. A lot of times when, I speak for experience on this, but when you have a lot of knee issues and damage to it, you get a little necrosis in there, and it just makes it tough to heal. And so sometimes they think that other stuff helps it heal. So I'm thinking that's why. And usually when they do that with like a PRP shot or something, they shut you down and rest it, just allowing that to work before, you get going. So, I mean, I wouldn't play Kyle Lewis in center field more than once or twice a week. I would probably DH him 4 or 5 times a week if he was healthy, use the other days for Ty France and Mitch Haniger. But, it's crazy. But if you think about it, yeah, he was the rookie of the year, but he won that largely based on 3.5 weeks of games. If you look at the second half, he started to go downhill a lot. And, did he play 37 games last year? We don't really know what Kyle Lewis is or isn't as a big league player based on sample size. Why do you think Kikuchi turned down will look like an extremely sweet deal for him? Yeah, Steve, I was stunned. I mean, like, I'll take 13 million. I don't know about you guys. I'd take $13 at this point. Because it's kind of expensive down here in Carlsbad. Holy cow. We talked with Scott Boras today, and he said that the free agent market, there's such a need for starting pitching that they advised Kikuchi that they thought he would get a multiple year deal on the market. I think, yeah, that's part of it. I think he's looking for a fresh start. I know, like, he was frustrated at times with just how much they wanted mechanical stuff, this and that. You need to fix this, you need to fix that. I think he wanted to do it his own way. And, I do think he was frustrated when he was pulled from the rotation in that final game, and he should have been. He was bad. So I just think he wanted to kind of do something different, maybe try something different. And this afforded him an opportunity. I fully believe that he'll get 2 years. He won't get 2 years, 13 million a year, but he'll get a 2-year deal. I mean, the guy still throws 97. He still got plus stuff on this cutter. And, every pitching coach always believes they're going to be the one to harness that and fix it. So I think, yeah, he'll get a look somewhere. And Boras seemed really confident. And Scott Boras usually finds contracts for his players. It's not very often that he doesn't. Let's see here. Do you think free agent signings will be delayed because of the CBA uncertainty? Yeah, we were kind of discussing that. Like, I guess if you're the upper tier free agents, your market is your market, but at the same time, like, teams will have to factor in if they change the luxury tax threshold or something like that. I would imagine that's something they want to contend with. I kind of thought that maybe, like, your lower tier free agents or your mid-level guys like Tyler Anderson, or, just, you're talking about a free agent kind of utility player or something like that. Their market is their market, and it won't change. And maybe you sign early because you want to get, you have the stability of at least knowing where you're going to go to spring training and not all that other stuff, and have that up in the air. So I don't know. I mean, honestly though, like, if there was going to be a run on it like that, because like Andrew Heaney, it would be the perfect example of that mid-level free agent filler, kind of a filler for your rotation. He signed the other day. I thought maybe we'd see more of that. And maybe we will in the next few days. I mean, I know there are agents all over in a lot of negotiations. So maybe we see kind of those mid-level guys go. But I think the main guys will probably wait. You got 3 weeks. I mean, I don't know. I just think the Bryants and the Correas, they're going to wait it out and try and find out. I mean, like, just in the last day or two, we've heard that the Rangers and the Tigers are going to add $100 million with the payroll to try and be a little bit more competitive next year. So that already changed. I mean, that alone changes the market, and it doesn't really help the Mariners by that happening. I mean, like, all of a sudden you have another player into this. And so, like, somehow, let's say Texas somehow convinces Corey and Kyle Seager to go to the Rangers and play. Well, then all of a sudden that changes the market for the Yankees, who are like Corey Seager, or they like Correa, but maybe they don't get them. So they go after Trevor Story or Marcus Semien because they're not there. So I think with those guys, I think they're going to wait that out. But there'll be, if I'm pretty certain, at least the way I read it and people I've talked to, if there is a lockout, there'll be a transactional freeze because you can't do anything with the 40-man roster. Please give us your evaluation of Cal Raleigh. It's a pretty, like many of my college classes, pretty incomplete. I mean, like, what do we really know about Cal? Do we know if he's a good hitter? No, not really. I mean, he showed some pop a little bit. He didn't show much plate discipline, which was supposedly a calling card in the minors. He got swing happy. You know, he was never really great defensively, to the point where, you know, in the last 20 games, he barely played, and they played Tom Murphy even against platoon splits because the pitchers trusted him more, and, you know, he was better at handling those situations. So yeah, he's an unfinished product. But the thing is like, you know, hell, if you send him back down to Tacoma, does he really get any better just beating up on bad PCL pitching and you know, working with pitchers that he's never going to catch in the big leagues? Or how do you make it work? I think they like Tom Murphy as kind of the mentor to him. But yeah, to sit and say like, oh yeah, he's your catcher of the future and he's going to be there right now, I think he's pretty far away from that. And if you think about it, he's not young. I think he's 24, 25. So he's an older player. He needs to take a significant step forward this year. And, you know, like, I mean, if you're the Mariners and all of a sudden you can find a way to trade for Wilson Contreras to the Cubs, maybe you do that instead. If you just realize that this isn't there, maybe you look at that instead, because I just don't know that we know anything about him. We didn't see him bat right-handed very much either. But the strikeouts were alarming. I mean, he was striking out at a higher rate than Zunino. And, you know, when we start talking about that territory and you don't have the home runs to go with it, then you have a problem. Emily asks, if the Mariners looking to make a big splash in the free agent market, how much extra are we going to have to pay for the I don't want to play in Seattle tax? And are there any players in particular who would be more or less willing to sign here, given? Okay, yeah, so that's real. And I don't, excuse me for a second. That's a very real scenario. I used to say they would always have to pay 20% over market value. Maybe that's a little different. Maybe, you know, with a player that maybe has Northwest roots, something like that, or the market isn't what they thought it would be, you wouldn't. But, you know, 240 million to Robinson Cano and Nelson Cruz, the year he signed, he didn't have a 4-year offer on the table. The Mariners were the only ones to offer 4 years. You throw in Cano and Felix recruiting him, so he signed the deal because he got 4 years. So I mean, that's, you know, I think 4 years at 16 million, so 16 million a year. That's a significant increase over the market of what he had. And I would venture to guess that's the same. Like Carlos Correa, he's got, let's say the Mariners offer him $300 million and the Rangers offer him $300 million and the Yankees offer him $300 million. You know, is he going to go to Seattle? It's hard to say. Like 90 wins was great this year, and those last 3 games are great. But I mean, that doesn't, you know, that's not a tradition of success or postseason success or anything like that. And for players that live in Florida in the offseason, Seattle's an issue. You know, they don't like it. It's difficult. And, you know, I think that's a problem. You're really have to sell them on the players you have, and you're going to have to overpay a little bit more. And I think everybody kind of understands that. It's just within reason of overpaying. Like, you know, with Cano, the rumor was that the Mariners essentially bid against themselves, that the highest that the Yankees ever went was like 175, and the Mariners gave him 240 in 2 extra years. So, you know, you don't want to do that either. If you know going in, you're going to have to overpay a little bit. It probably is a little less painful. But yeah, I'm curious, you know, like Marcus Semien, if you have to give him $25 million a year or $30 million a year at 5 years, if San Francisco, he's a Bay Area kid, if San Francisco offers even money and the Mariners offer even money, do they give the 6 year? Do they, you know, how do they up the AAV? Is that enough to change it? And that's what we're running into. And, you know, players have different reasons for wanting to go. And usually, so if they were all just like Zach Greinke and just says, yeah, look, if you give me $2 more than the best offer, then I'm going to go where you gave me the $2 more. It doesn't matter. I just want the highest amount of money possible. If they were all like that, then it'd be a lot easier to read, but trying to figure out what they're going to do is a little different. Mark asks, can Flexen be expected to sustain or improve? Do we have a pitcher throw 200 innings again? I don't know how many pitchers we're ever going to see throw 200 innings. At least, I mean, the way their injuries were this year and the way teams slow play pitchers because of last year, I still think you're rebuilding from that last year, you know, and I guess if there was some reason how the lockouts build in the season, you could have a shortened season again. Teams are just not as, you know, they just play the game differently. You know, you just see it more and more. They pull guys after 5, and maybe it's because they're young and you're trying to control the innings and the leverage innings. And other times it's, you know, the strategy of winning the game and shortening the game. What's crazy is like, and if you looked at those postseason games, I mean, none of this, like the starters that got them there to the postseason, we barely saw them pitch. I mean, I saw that Matzik guy pitch for the Braves more than I saw like Fried pitch. It seemed like he was out there more. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know that. And the Mariners, I mean, Marco would be the closest to doing it, but yeah, I know they won't push Logan Gilbert anywhere near that. I hope they don't go to the 6-man rotation this year, but they're going to go varied looks, you know, and guys like George Kirby and Emerson Hancock, they're going to be very careful on how they start their innings out. I missed the one from Kenneth earlier about the A's or Rays going to Portland. Does Portland have a real chance, or Vancouver? If Canada gets another team, it's going to go to Montreal. It's just everything I've heard, though I'd love Vancouver. I don't think that the Mariners will allow Portland to get a team. I just think they will fight it tooth and nail. They won't do it publicly, but privately they don't want it. They feel that's part of their geographic footprint. Lots of other people would argue. And I mean, like, also Major League Baseball is in bed with gambling now. Like, they're in bed with gambling. It's on MLB Quick Pitch, FanDuel, all that stuff. Like, I don't know that Vegas can handle another team. And I can't even imagine the years before the stadium is built, teams playing in Major League teams playing in Vegas, where it's a few degrees hotter than the sun during the summer. But I think Oakland is going to end up in Las Vegas. I think their ownership is reducing payroll this year. They're going to dump. I mean, like, they're shopping Matt Chapman, Matt Olson, Frankie Montas, Sean Manaea, Chris Bassett. Like when Dipoto says, we love them all. I was like, yeah, you should. I mean, they're good players and they're going to get rid of all of them because they're arbitration eligible. It's so similar. Like this year when I was there and they had like 3,000 or 4,000 people at those games, it was so similar to that 2008 year when the Sonics were here, where they didn't promote the team. They didn't offer any ticket specials. They didn't do anything to really even acknowledge that they had a team there because they wanted to make it look bad so they could get them out. And that was similar. Like, I have friends that live in the Bay Area that said Oakland doesn't do anything, and they upped their season ticket prices this year. Why? Because they want to drive down they want to have that perception that this team or that area doesn't care about the franchise and wouldn't matter if they got a new stadium, so they need to leave. So I think that Oakland will be the team to leave, and and just geographically speaking, they'll probably put them in Vegas. I know Portland wants it, but I think Vegas will probably be able to provide a better stadium plan to help them get along, kind of get across the finish line. And I'm just still lamenting what kind of damage the 3 trips into Las Vegas every year for work will do to my liver. Vancouver would be cool. I just don't know that. Like, Vancouver is so beautiful and it's such a great place that it's kind of sometimes reminds me of San Diego. Like, I have a lot of cool things to do, and it usually isn't going to a baseball game. I mean, I love going to baseball games, but like, you're in San Diego and you're out at Mission Beach. Like, I got to leave here and go to the game. No, I think I'll stay. And like, Vancouver, just so great. Like you're doing all these different things that maybe they wouldn't. Let's see here. Steve asks if I considered his rookie year selection a head scratcher, looking how he's trending. Well, it was funny. I was talking with a White Sox writer about it because I think, you know, it was Luis Robert who finished second. And we were just kind of joking. Or was it? Yeah, it was Luis Robert. And we were kind of joking. It was just a matter of who didn't suck as bad in the last 3 weeks of the season, like who didn't fall off a cliff at such a precipitous rate. And Robert was just non-existent for a while there. I think he hit a couple homers late, but yeah, I mean, like, you know, one, it was 60 games. And so you didn't really have a very big sample size, but yeah, I mean, like, it wasn't like, I mean, I think Robert only had 2 first place votes, but it wasn't like, oh yeah, this is so easy because he was so dominant. It was just like, yeah, he was a little bit better than Luis Robert. And so let's just go here. Michael asks, when we know if Jared Kelenic can hit major league pitching, or he might be another Montero, Ackley, Smokes, and he's not Montero, who is so unbelievably unathletic. Ackley just was a weird dude who made massive and drastic swing changes in an overreaction after one bad year, and he couldn't get back to where he was. Like that, you know, they always talk about how do people handle failure for the first time. He handled it absolutely in the worst possible way by just gutting his swing and starting over when, you know, it was just an overreaction. Smoke, he became a decent hitter with Toronto, I think, aided by the AL East, and he had Seattle in his head. He admitted, I wrote a big story on him the year he was an all-star with Toronto, and he was brutally honest just about how he let Safeco Field get in his head and he overswung on everything. Zunino, you know, some developmental issues. He was swing and miss even in college. I think Kelnic's a better overall hitter than all of them. Like you look at those guys, his understanding of the strike zone is better than all those guys right now. I thought he got pitched pretty tough at times, and teams brought in a lot of lefties. I thought he was better the last month of the season. You know, I know the Mariners are really like all gung-ho about the last month of the season, but I just thought he was better at making adjustments and understanding what he was supposed to do at the plate. And I think that's a big thing. And I think he'll be fine. I don't know. And I think one thing is I think he learned too that you don't have to sell out for power, that he's strong enough that power will happen. I think he got kind of caught up in the power quotient. You saw how big and muscular and physical he's gotten over the last year and a half. One, you worry about that for injuries, but I think it reduced some of his hitability. And I think you realize now that, like, look, you know, he's strong. If he just focuses on hitting the ball hard, it's going to go out. You don't have to try for home runs. But I like his approach and understanding. So I think he'll be a decent player, a decent overall hitter. I don't think he'll ever be like a 300 hitter, but, you know, he certainly should be in the 270s because, like, his strike zone awareness. And I thought, you know, he was better at hitting curveballs towards the end, or at least recognizing what they were doing to him. So it'll be really interesting to see how he does next year. You don't have all that pressure of the Mather stuff and all that stuff, and your first time calling up and trying to show everybody. And so, no, I think he'll be good. Do you think the Mariners should add help at catcher? I mean, yeah, I would. I looked at the free agent market. The best free agent available is either Manny Pena or Yan Gomes at age 35. So that's a little rough. I mean, it'd be a 1-year fix. So there just isn't a whole lot out there. And I don't know that there's a lot in the organization after Cal. I mean, they had some younger kids they drafted, but like Brian O'Keefe and some of those guys are more journeyman minor league catchers than anything. The Godoy kid, Jose Godoy, who's a minor league sign, he's still technically on the team, but I think they'll have to DFA him at some point. He's okay. He can hit a little bit, but there isn't a lot out there. You know, DePoto said that Luis Torrens is going to catch a lot more this season. I think he saw my right eye start twitching like I used to be when I'd watch like Jeff Clement catch. But Yeah, I think they're just kind of stuck with where they're at unless there is an opportunity for a catcher maybe on another team opens up. Um, I don't I don't know that going and getting those other guys really makes it that much better. Alex says, isn't Seattle great? I live in Tacoma, but Seattle's pretty cool. I like Tacoma a little bit better, but I'm from Montana, so even Tacoma's way too many people at times for me. Um, Timothy asks, anyone in the minors that impressed you this year? Well, I didn't, it's tough. You don't really get to see very many of those guys. I had a lot of people raving about Matt Brash and George Kirby and Noel V. Marte. You know, I know I had a one scout really like Zach Deloach, who just made the fall league all-star team. Just said he just really has a good understanding of a hitter. As a hitter, he's not going to wow you with power or any of this stuff, but like at the end of the night, you look up, he's got a couple knocks, he's driven in a run, he's probably worked a walk and played pretty good defense in the outfield. They think he could be a pretty solid player. Like he could be a Seth Smith type, that just really can kind of help you. Seth Smith, one of the most boring human beings I've ever covered. Can MLB do anything to improve balls and strikes calling? Talking about killing it reminded me of some of the, yeah. Well, I mean, we could start with basic eye tests for some of these guys. I don't know. Part of it is too is I think players understand that guys miss calls, and that's fine. That they'll get upset or whatever, but it's kind of the contemptuous nature of some of them to push back. I mean, I would imagine the balls and strike percentage are going to get better simply because Joe West is retiring. If CB Buckner and Angel Hernandez retired too, and Scott Barry, it would get better. But, there's no accountability for these guys publicly. You've seen it when they have to answer questions in like a media scrum, they don't answer. They take it personally. They're even questioned about this. And these younger guys that they're calling up are overwhelmed by it. I don't know what the answer is. And I don't know if computers are going to fix it or not either, robot umps, but it's pretty bad. It's as bad as it's ever been. And, part of it is like we have the strike tracker, so we get to monitor it and we see how bad they are. And, there for every good umpire that's pretty consistent, you have three that are just so far below average that it affects games. Do you see yourself traveling to some of the other minor league cities to check on the farm if the CBA thing is settled? I'd go if they send me. It's all kind of about whether the Times wants to spend the money to send me. I went to Arkansas when Evan White and Kyle Lewis and Kelnick and all those guys were in Arkansas. I went there that year and that was a blast. And I wrote a couple of fun stories off of it. I'd love to go watch Noel V. Marte play in person a few times. And, Alberto Rodriguez, who was with him. I didn't even, this is going to sound, I've never been to Everett Memorial Stadium. I've never seen an Aqua Sox game. And I was going to go this year, but Julio wasn't there a whole lot of games. So, I'd like to go. It's just kind of, kind of how we staff the Mariners. I have to be there for most of them. We don't have, a backup that does a lot of it. So I kind of have to be at most Mariners games. And so that kind of limits me from going to see the other stuff. Who do you think will win the World Series? And what did I think of the World Series? Oh, it was great. I mean, I think most of us were probably happy the Astros didn't win. And that was kind of it's like the Astros are kind of like when I watch college basketball, I don't want Duke to win. Or when I watch football, I don't want Notre Dame to win. I'm that person. I don't cheer for the house in blackjack, so I don't want Duke to win. But yeah, I don't. I thought it was great. I mean, I would have. It's crazy because they won, but like I would have loved to have watched Acuna play more though. Like that guy is great to watch, and he didn't get to play. It was cool. Scott Boras today was like lamenting the fact that the Braves were under 500 on August 1st, and they made 4 or 5 trades and picked up players and changed their whole team. And, and then how the Dodgers won 100 games and they were balanced. I don't want to say it was like they played them in the series. They could have beat them. I mean, like I thought it was cool. I mean, and really it should give like a team like the Mariners hope that, like, if you just get there and get to the postseason and figure out how you're going to do it, that if you play well and execute, you can win it all. Michael asks, horrible balls and strikes calls. Do you think umpires go over their bad calls? What about laser calling? The umpires are graded and they receive, I think, video and charts of all their missed calls. And for a while they said that's why it shrunk the strike zone so much, is because umps weren't giving that borderline pitch. But yeah, they are graded. The grades are not made public to the fans or anything like that. And if an umpire is disciplined, we don't know about it. They don't make that public either. But yeah, they are graded. I don't know about laser calling. I'm down for whatever. Down for whatever it makes it go faster.
Ryan, we have time for maybe one more question, then any final comments you have.
Okay.
Thank you.
When Seiya, any opinions on Seiya Suzuki? I haven't really. I watched a little bit of video on him. He looks pretty good. He had 86. He had 87 walks and 86 strikeouts last year. That's pretty crazy. And he hit 38 bombs. Now I don't know that 38 bombs in Japan translates to 38 bombs in the U.S. I had a couple of scouts say he's at least 25 to 30 in the U.S. He's a corner outfielder. They like him. They've been scouting him. I know they're kind of not, they're not really, they're having to wait because the posting system hasn't been figured out yet, because they don't have a CBA. They don't know what the posting system is going to be like, but they'll definitely be interested in adding them to their team. Because I mean, like, you look at it, if you don't know what Kyle Lewis is, you have an opening in left field. And so you could use him there, because for now they're going to have to play Jared Kelenic in center, because it doesn't sound like center field is a priority, which, I've been lobbying for 2 years of Starling Marte, because I just like watching that guy play. He plays so hard. Timothy asks, when Adam Jeter, Scott Hansen are doing game write-ups for a series, what are you doing? I'd rather read yours. I'll tell those guys that. I don't take many days off. Occasionally I do, like, it, maybe it's for, like, if my girlfriend was visiting, or like I still play kind of high level men's fast pitch softball. I've been playing since I was 17. Even when I was playing baseball in college, I was still playing softball all summer. So I played in some tournaments. This year I missed the Angel series because I went to Nevada and played in the over 40 tournament, which was pretty interesting. But so that's kind of my one hobby that I will kind of step away, but I don't do it very often. And I guess I missed a series this year because I had to go to a wedding, which I would have never wanted to do. As for final thoughts, I don't know about you guys and what you guys thought. And I don't even know how many of you guys are all like diehard Mariners fans or whatever. I thought the last 25 games were pretty cool this year. I mean, I was amazed. I think I wrote this team off, not maybe in my stories, but like in conversations, saying like, they're done. This is it. They're done. I mean, in May, when they got no hit twice and they got swept by the Padres by outscored like 100-5. Yeah, I thought they were done. They had COVID issues, but it was pretty entertaining season. And I guess for me that would be like the last 20 some games and those games at the park. Seeing that, I mean, it was kind of cool to see that energy again. At the park. I haven't seen it in a long time. Obviously COVID, but I think that it's just kind of a reminder, like, why baseball is fun. And hopefully they don't do anything stupid like a long work stoppage or whatever, and they understand that, like, it would be just catastrophic for the game and the reputation. And I appreciate anybody that reads my stuff, and thanks for hanging out, because that's, I mean, like, you guys kind of get it, and you guys are the people that I write for. Like, obviously the Times is a wide ranging audience, and I still got to write for someone, the little old lady in Yakima, versus diehard readers, like people that understand the analytics and all that stuff. But at the same time, you want to write the why of what's going on, and I think that helps. So I appreciate anybody that subscribes or reads my stuff, and thanks for letting me do this. Like I said, we can do it again spring, whatever. Hopefully we can do it in person.
Yes, I'm hoping that we'll be able to have you in person again before a Mariners game at SPU, maybe next
Yeah.
spring. And if we can't, this has worked great. I feel like you're probably going to have to go like grab some throat lozenges or something after talking for an hour straight. But
I feel like Jerry DePoto, he did this the other day and I was amazed. Like he went for 90 minutes and Boris went for 87 minutes today. Like I don't know. I guess like Jerry said, it when it's something you enjoy talking about or something you enjoy talking about, it doesn't feel like you're going for a long time.
well, we really appreciate you giving us a full hour this evening. I hope people don't jump offline yet. We have a couple more items of business we want to get to really quickly here. But Ryan, thank you so much. I know you're very much appreciated, and we'll look forward to talking soon.
Yeah, if you guys need, if you ever need anything too, just hit me up on my email, rdivish@seattletimes.com. I know, like, avoid Twitter if possible, but yeah, if you want to email me or anything, you ever have questions or anything like that, let me know. Food recommendations for any of these MLB cities or something, or if you just see me at a game, grab me and say hi. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
See you guys.
I want to turn over the program now to Anthony Salazar, who has a quick announcement update for our chapter. Anthony, are you there? I see you.
I'm here, and I'm believing here. All right, so so what I if you caught me earlier, I indicated that I was meeting with a couple of Mariner folks yesterday, Kevin Martinez and Greg Green. And in our conversations, one of the things that they were talking about was this idea about wanting to hear from the fans. So that is, they're interested in telling a fan story or sports fan stories. So what I'd like to ask of you is, if you're interested in telling the Mariners why you love baseball, your love of baseball, and your love of the Mariners, they want to hear from you. So if you would, please send me your name, your email address, and a little blurb, like, four sentences, 5 sentences or something like that, about your love of baseball and the Mariners and things like that. I'm going to gather all these responses and send off to Kevin and to Greg, and they would reach out to you for further comment. And what they're going to be doing, if I recall correctly, is doing this kind of a digital stories, and I imagine that incorporates video as well. But you could be featured in the upcoming 2022 season. So again, send me your name, your email address, and a little blurb, 4 or 5 sentences about your love of baseball and your love of the Mariners. So let me just put in my email address here in the chat at yahoo.com. Is that right? Yeah, there you go. And we'll take it from there. So I really appreciate your interest and things like that. And in case you're interested in why I was meeting with the Mariners, we were talking about the 2022 Latino Day promotions. And so I've been helping them out with some of those things as well. They're interested in doing a little bit more community outreach with the Washington and Puget Sound / Seattle Latino community. So there you go. Thank you.
Hey, Anthony, is Latino Baseball Day, is that always going to be in September?
Yes, thanks, Tim. And so the idea is, because it celebrates the beginning of National Hispanic Heritage Day, which runs September 15th to October 15th. So traditionally, the Mariners and other teams do celebrate their Latino heritage type days around that time. So thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Bob Russin, updates? You're muted, Bob.
I don't see the guy. Bill Helm, are you here? I told him he could speak about trying to start a vintage baseball league. He lives in Bellingham. I told him I'd give him some time to talk about it, but I don't see him logged on here. So
Okay.
it is what it is. Okay.
Okay. Does anybody else have any announcements or updates before we log off? Before we do log off, I do want to thank everybody. We had over 30 people come out. We certainly had no problem filling up an hour of Ryan Divish's time. Thank you for everyone who participated. Any announcements before we log off until next time? Jim
Yes,
Diamond,
I'd like to mention something.
please.
I'm new to the Pacific Northwest chapter. This is my first meeting, but I'd like to invite you all to look at the new issue of SABR's Baseball Research Journal, which just came out. I have an article in that journal on a new measure of overall offensive performance. I would appreciate any feedback from people that have a chance to look at that.
Excellent. If you want to drop your contact information in the chat box, I'm sure people will be eager to reach out to you once they've had a chance to consume your work.
I have a real quick announcement. The Buffalo Soldier Museum calendar is done. It's available. We get them delivered on Friday. I put a link into the website if you want to buy one. It'll support our educational stuff, and we got 500 of them, so we got to sell them. Thanks.
Thanks, Jim. Anybody else? Any other announcements?
Yeah,
Neil.
I can make one. Just the usual pitch for since we'll be in person next year in Baltimore, we will have research presentations and we will be vetting them. I haven't talked to my colleagues in that, but I want to try to see if we can get more presentations in this next convention, since we have 2 years worth of backlog. If you're interested in doing a presentation at the National Convention, you can always email to me, or you can put something, well, you can email me. I guess I'll put my email address into the chat.
Thanks, Neil. Josh asked if the meeting was recorded. It is being recorded right now, so you should be able to go on and log in and relive the exciting evening we've just had, should you want to. Michael Wood, is that a hand raise?
Yes.
Please.
Hi. Some of you who are on the Facebook group may have seen that Henry Berman, one of the members that has spoken and done papers, passed away late last year. And close friend of mine, we go to a lot of ball games together. His wife, his widow, has a ton of baseball souvenirs and memorabilia that go back as far as the 40s and maybe even the 30s. He was a early New York Yankees fan. And I suggested, got one response, that maybe we could, at our next in-person meeting, we could do a silent auction or something like that to sell, people could buy his memorabilia, and then we could donate it to, youth baseball or Hispanic baseball, organization of some sort. So whatever if you guys have any suggestions about that, just post it on Facebook or shoot me an email or a private message on Facebook.
Thank you. Steve Steinberg, I see your hand.
You're muted, Steve.
Yeah, Michael triggered a thought on my part. Yeah, I have a large number of baseball books. Probably, I've never counted them, probably over 1,000. And I was even exchanging emails with John Thorne recently. The problem that we have is when the day comes that we're no longer going to be here, it seems that books are really not very desirable because of the space that they take. And I don't know if and I've even talked to Bobby Plappinger, who's the Pacific Northwest bookseller who lives in Ashland, and it's really an issue. And I don't know if other people have grappled with it, but you hate to think that your books are going to end up getting dumped somewhere or virtually not going somewhere. But it's a real issue nowadays that people just don't like or appreciate paper books. And I'm wondering if anybody else has been grappling with this and how they're dealing with it. I look at a few of you like Steve over there with big bookcases behind them. Where do these books go when we're not here?
I'm taking mine with me, Steve.
Okay, you'll have plenty of time to read them. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how many books that I've schlepped out of meetings after we had some kind of an event and nobody wanted them. and I broke my back hauling them home. And I even got like some from like the Mariners or something like that they left, that they were offering to us, and nobody wanted them, so I ended up hauling them home. I think we could probably think about making a donation or something. You know, does SABR has doesn't it have like some kind of a research library in San Diego?
You know, I've been talking with SABR's president, and because they're at the Cronkite School of ASU, but I don't even know if anything's, I mean, maybe Bill Woodward is the one, but the first thing is, you know, if you don't have a donation that goes with it to support the square footage and the rent that it's going to demand, it's just not desired. I've never asked Bill, and I know he's not here now, but it's an ongoing issue in the back of my mind.
You know, what I put in the chat was, you know, find a way to donate to your local high school, you know, library. You know, the thing is, let's find a way to kind of just to create new fans. You know, if kids are in the library, you know, hopefully they are, they're coming across some really cool baseball titles like, hey, this is really cool. So just, to me, it just seems like, you know, a natural fit. But, you know, I was the kid, you know, at lunchtime in the library, you know, geeking out on various books. So that's just me.
There was last year, a librarian from Camino Island, I think it was reaching out to us about, or maybe it's a couple years ago, was reaching out to the chapter about wanting to see if there would be anybody that could come and speak, because they were doing a summer of baseball books and stuff. And one of the things I remember from that person is that they wanted more baseball books. So that, I don't remember the fellow's name at all, but it was a library. So it's a county or island library. They're up on, I think, Camino or Whidbey Island, or some type of island that's in the Sound, surrounded by water. And they wanted some baseball books. So that would be a good destination, because one of the things you're going to run in with libraries is collection policies. There's going to be collection policies that determine how they acquire books, what type of books they acquire, what type of specializations they have. At least at that one, you're going to have a librarian with a strong interest in baseball and baseball literature and books. And that might be one where, because if you just donate it to a library and it's not part of the collection policy, it goes into a bin of freedom. So.
Mike Slocum, I saw you had your hand up at one point. Do you want to announce something?
No, I didn't want to announce something, but I wanted to, I only caught the tail end of Bob Russon's comments on another gentleman up here in Billingham, which is where I live, about a vintage baseball league or something. Do you know anything more about that, Bob? Or?
Mike, I can't tell you a lot. This guy, his name is Bill Helm, and I've had some communication with him. He just moved here, and I was trying to help him get welcoming him to the chapter and everything. And he asked for some time. He said he's put some ads in the newspaper, and he asked for some time. And I told him, sure. And he said he would be here at this one, and I don't see him, so I don't know what else to tell you. If I hear anything more from him, I can forward some stuff on to you.
Okay. Thank you for that.
I've encouraged him to post on the chapter's Facebook page too. So that's what I know.
SABR member that just moved to the area, is that right?
Yeah, I'm just kind of the welcoming committee.
Okay. Well, you welcomed me very well, by the way.
Oh, that's kind of you. That's kind of you. Yeah.
Paul, I see your hand up.
Hi. Yeah. Hi, guys. I'm sorry I came late to the meeting, so I don't know if this has come up yet, but I was wondering if any of us, through our connections with the Mariners, those of us who may have connections with the Mariners, could lobby for maybe having them do a Rupert Jones bobblehead night. You know, he came on with us. He was a great guest. He gave us his address. He signed 2 books for me. You know, and I think it'd be great. He was a Mariners hero. It'd be great to have him back. I don't really know who we know at the Mariners that we could sort of lobby for that, but I think it'd be a very nice gesture on our part.
Thank you. Barry, I see your hand up.
Yes, with regard to Bob Russ's friends, he should be made aware of the Puget Sound Senior Baseball League, which is one of the largest adult amateur baseball leagues in the country. Bellingham's a little farther north, but we have people from all over the Pacific Northwest playing in that league. And they may have some contacts in the Bellingham area also.
Was he looking for senior or vintage?
Yeah, no, he's looking for vintage. He's trying to start my understanding is he's trying to start a vintage, a team or league or something like that. And he said he put a couple ads in the paper and he said, and I said, well, you can put your ad in, but it'd just be more meaningful. You could just write something on the chapter's Facebook page. And I haven't heard anything more. So I'll tell him that there was some interest in the idea and that if he wanted to, he should post it on the Facebook page and send it out and do stuff like that.
Thank you. Tim Herlick.
So SABR Day is January 29th.
Oh, yeah.
And I was looking because the NFL playoffs are different days now, but that weekend, the playoffs are only on Sunday and SABR Day is a Saturday. So we should, as a chapter, plan to gather in some way, I would think, on that day. So I just plant the seed. And then just a question for Anthony. In your meeting with Kevin, did the Fan Fest, did that come up at all?
And you know what? I'll say, damn it, I forgot to ask. However, I think I was talking with another club about something else, the Cincinnati Reds, and I was asking them about their Fan Fest, and they were not going to have one. It was due to the CBA discussion. So it seems like people are kind of like, we don't know what's going to happen, because what's a Fan Fest without the players there?
Sure.
So I think they're like, on the fence about it. So I would extrapolate that the Mariners are facing the same sort of deal. So I would say that the Fan Fest is TBD.
Yeah, you're probably right. They said Fan Fest as we knew it was never going to happen again, but that was before the pandemic, when they had the Christmas lights activity in December, and then they had to resod the whole field after that.
Right.
2 years in a row. But of course, it was more lucrative for them to have this activity in December.
For sure.
Now that the pandemic, maybe they had changed their thinking. But yeah, with the CBA, I'm sure you're right. There will be no Fan Fest, but we should do something for SABR Day. I just want to throw that out.
For sure.
Bob Webster.
Yeah, the Cubs also canceled their convention.
Thank you. Seeing no further comments, I wanted to one last time thank everybody for coming out tonight. We will aim to have some sort of gathering to commemorate SABR Day 2022 probably in January. And hopefully we'll see each other before then, but we may not until then. So please stay safe, be healthy, and we'll see each other down the road. Thank you.
Wait. Hey, tip. One more thing.
Okay.
I'm not on the committee this year, but just to let you guys know, this is kind of like the time to start thinking about running for national office. So I forget which offices will be seeking new positions, but consider running for a SABR national office.
So it'll be vice president.
Thank you, Neil.
And at least one director.
Cool.
I don't know whether secretary or
right.
treasurer will be up. Or maybe a special election for treasurer.
Not secretary, because that was last year.
Okay.
But anyway, so just a pitch to think about running for national office. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Anthony. All right, everybody. Have a good evening and take care.
Okay.
Thank you, Tip.
Thanks,
Bye.
Tip.
Thanks, Bob.
Good job, Tip. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Bye.